Alright, I have to talk quick because I don't have very much time. Well, other than the fact I'm feeling the rain falling on me, and I know Brittany's going to be calling me any minute asking where I'm at. But as everybody is probably getting pretty well used to, is I'm down here looking at the current hay forecast, and well, this is actually after getting a couple inches of rain. We have a little bit of washing up at home, not a lot, but it's actually on one of our field roads. We got well, it didn't wash out the new seeding that is there, but it just enough to move a little bit of dirt. And I'm down here seeing what the rain and the moisture we had actually gotten in the last few days now is actually doing to these big cracks I showed you guys down here in the dirt. Well, there actually are still quite a few cracks, and actually if you look across behind me here, these are those really deep waterways. I mean, here. I would flip my phone around just on screen, but I guess that actually messes up my video. So yes, everything is backwards because it's the front screen of my cell phone, but you can see on the waterways here, it's kind of, you can tell that the spread pattern wasn't perfect, but when I was pretty well done with the fertilizer I had in the buggy, because I didn't want to pull a full buggy around some of these hills, but you can see from the top of the hill down to right in that the trough of the bottom how there's actually some pretty darker bands of fertilizer. I'm attributing that to the fact that the spread pattern was kind of messed up because I was on an angle, but those hillsides are actually producing more grass and currently than I've ever seen them produce. Now it is kind of sporadic. For the most part, it is approximately knee-high on me, and some of it is starting to head out already, which I wish it was a little bit taller than that. But I am really seeing, get up here where I can see it, and this is probably the worst part of the whole farm, just because whoever seeded it, it wasn't me. And I don't even know who seeded it, but I think you guys see the problem as far as what their issue was with their grain drill. Either they ran out or they only put in clover on one side of the drill and not the other. But this whole piece here from that waterway over to actually where there's another little waterway over there where it dips down and up to the end of the waterway. This is all kind of sporadic, so I guess it's going to be a grass clover mix. And just as an example, because we can look at the big spider, not afraid of spiders, are you? But the cracks that we have in the soil down here are still pretty extreme. I'm not about to stick my finger down in there with a spider inhabiting it, but I know I can't get my, at least has enough moisture I can't get my finger down in it. And I'm now back into the group that would rather the sun comes back out. That heat that they were promising us for today, we were supposed to have 3 days in the 80s, which might be going a little bit too far to the other extreme. Sunshine, some heat, the moisture's in the ground, the crop that is out there, the corn, the beans, and the hay crop is, well, it really took off here in just the last 4 or 5 days. But it's cold out. I actually don't have my heavy coat on. I actually could use it, believe it or not. Well, I hate being cold as a general rule, but that wind is actually pretty sharp. It's cold out yet. Cold and damp. Damp. It's just cool out with that moisture in the air. And to be honest with you, I wish this stuff was a little bit further along than what it is. It's not headed out. But if you guys could see from where I just walked, the bottom, I guess I didn't talk about the bottom at all. That is actually have a little bit of a yellow tint to it, but it's growing. The stuff down there is reed canary. Like over 90% of it is reed canary, but it's probably over, at least up to my waist by now. And by the time that's actually ready to mature, it'll be probably right around eye level with me, if not taller. And I did fertilize all this. It worked better in some areas of the field than it did in others. It was actually pretty thicker here, up to my knees for the most part. But down there, I don't know if it's a soil type or what, but the grass is actually only about halfway up to my knees. And there's plenty of moisture in the soil, but the cracks are really, really evident. It's just the soil type that's down there for the most part. Gumbo is, I've never had to actually farm gumbo soil before. And for everybody that has, know that that first time dropping the chisel plow and basically any tillage tool into the ground was quite the surprise. It's the first time I've ever dropped a chisel plow into the soil, gone 100 feet, and looked back and just the tips of the shovels are actually in the soil and they're basically just dancing. Some wicked stuff. That's why I was glad when the landlord said that no row crops. We just want to see this as a hay farm, and it just so happens the timeline matched up where, see, somebody's so lazy he's following my track that I'm walking in. Joke's on him. He needed a bath, so walking through the wet grass is actually getting all that mud off of him that I wanted to get off of him. But as far as picking this farm up, I've said, you guys, my die-hard viewers, know that I've been wanting to get back into cattle for a while. So when this place came up, this will produce more hay than I could feed to 150 head of cattle. Now, this place produces a lot of feed. The tricky part about it is actually getting it made. I mean, a third of this place I could probably do 4 cuttings off of if it, timed it just right. Every 28 days, if it was alfalfa, if you're going for quality, I'd be cutting it, about the 1st of June, and then every 28 days until I got at least 4 cuttings off of it. As a rule of thumb, Grandpa always said you're done cutting, should be done cutting, and cut no more after the 15th of September, especially in alfalfa, because it gives it a couple weeks of regrowth before you have to really start worrying about a frost, so that plant can kind of build its energy back up, so you don't have to worry so much about a winter kill on it. We got grass. I like grass, and the cows like it. It's good feed. I'm not super crazy about the clover. One of the things about clover, is I haven't actually made a lot of clover in the past, at least not as much as I will be this year. But my experiences with clover in the past, and at least it's not like really, really heavy. I'm hoping the grass will actually kind of take over. But clover, you get generally one really nice crop off of, and then after that, it just, Grandpa, going back into Grandpa's experience with clover, it makes a nice feed. The cows like it, yada, 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 but you only get one really nice cutting off of it. And then after that, it just doesn't really seem to add up as well as alfalfa or even the grass will. So I'm leaning more towards grass because you guys saw my other video. I'm going for tonnage and quality. And one thing I'm really seeing down here, which I think the grass is really starting to come out of it, but are you guys seeing the brown on the tips? We're getting past that frozen or freeze that we had, and the grass is really starting to come back out of that, but that really dinged it back. But like everybody says, it's grass. Grass will come back. I mean, you're not going to get rid of it. I mean, that is kind of what I like about it too. It's not as heavy, or wasn't planted as heavy in some parts of the farm. If you guys were actually watching the screen here when I was just talking about it. Myself, I'm not expecting the grass to come back where I'm going to be able to take 4 cuttings off of it. I'm not about to try. 3 cuttings is ideal. The other thing is the other 2/3 of this farm are on a floodplain on the bottom. And last year, they didn't even, I mean, I'm the one that cut first crop down here. And not because they didn't want to, not because they couldn't, like they didn't try. It's because they couldn't. It's because 2019 is a 4-letter word, like somebody said in a recent video. And it was flooded down there until about a month. Well, I made it in August. It was flooded, too wet that you couldn't dare drive a tractor down there until about the 1st of August. It dried out enough where the ground was dry. I'm a cautious operator when it comes to this place because I don't want to, get stuck. I mean, tear stuff up. So every time that I've made that bottom down there, I have always driven around the perimeter of it with the 4-wheeler a couple times to make sure I knew where all my boundaries were, where I couldn't go. And then also when I go to cut it and I do my outside round, I actually follow the 4-wheeler track so I know that I'm good up to that 4-wheeler track. And last year I cut at the end of August. It had just gotten dry enough where we could actually make it. And then in the end, I only made half the bottom. So 1/3 of this farm, even though I paid for it, I didn't get made. But that is literally rolling the dice. I bought it knowing full well what could happen, and it ended up flooding again 2 weeks after. Well, actually, it started raining when we were pulling the last bales off of that ground down there. First crop will yield really well. Talking about coming back in with that liquid fertilizer through that sprayer of mine. I actually got to go through that and get it fixed up here because I'm going to be needing it here probably within a month, hopefully. Probably going to come back in after first cut, probably a week after I cut it, which would be pretty much, if I could do it the way I want to, by the time I cut it, ted it again, rake it, bale it, haul the bales off, and then apply my fertilizer. That's going to be approximately a week if it goes the way I plan. So the bottom is going to get fertilizer. I haven't done anything to it yet because after I had actually broadcasted the dry fertilizer up here, and after I had done that, the river backed up, the Mississippi River backed up, and it flooded that bottom for about a week. So it wasn't severe flooding. There weren't trees or anything floating across it. I'd already gone across with the 4-wheeler and checked for any stumps or anything, and I'll be doing it 2 or 3 more times before I actually go down and make it. I'm weird. I'm one of those farmers or individuals that actually like to drive around and look at the crops, and I actually do like it down here. It's a lot less stressful knowing that I'm making hay down here as opposed to trying to raise row crops just with the soil types like I have mentioned. And I do know what this place can do. So, yeah. I know you guys are going to be getting more hay updates as we go. More cattle updates, more crop updates, corn, beans. And we'll try to get Relina involved in doing some of this field work too if we can. So, as far as the bottom goes, that's got about 3 cuttings on it. If everything works out, if I don't get flooded out of it. So, this stuff can actually grow for quite a while yet. We got over 10 days at least before I'm going to get carried away worried about cutting it. This is some of the heavier stuff across the farm, but I do have some spots that are lighter. So as far as running averages, I'm expecting this. Well, I don't really know how many tons I'm going to have to the acre. I do know that the hay that I make from the bottom, because it's a different, well, it's a reed canary, it's not so much the clover. Those bales are usually rock hard, and when you drop them off the skid steer, you can actually feel them thump on the ground. The hay that you make off this, it's good stuff, don't get me wrong, the cows still eat it, but I prefer making the bottom. But it's a lot of nice running up here. It's actually not that terrible. It's actually pretty enjoyable when you're down here working. I'm looking forward to it. Planting's done. The planter's put away. We almost pulled the duals off the 46 today, and the disc bind is back together. So I'm hoping weather just cooperates. So with that, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Take it easy. Keep in touch. Hope you guys are having fun, because I know I sure am. I'll talk to you later. Bye.